5 snack ideas for babies and toddlers that are worth the hype, and another 5 that are surprisingly not. All this and more up next for transitioning babies and toddlers to solid foods, plus the free resource that you don't want to miss out on.
Lil Bits.
Welcome back to Little Bits of Language. That's Ayesha and Stephanie. They're pediatric speech-language pathologists who want to educate busy parents and caregivers about the process of speech and language development for kids.
Today, we are going to talk about an exciting milestone in a child's life, introducing solid foods. Balanced nutrition is vital for every child's overall health and development. And like most journeys, the way you start can greatly impact the outcome. Since the what and how a child eats can directly relate to their physical growth and the development of language, it's worth learning about the foods and resources that Stephanie and Ayesha will review today.
Make sure to subscribe and follow now to dive into the world of children's language growth. Gain exclusive access to free resources, expert insights, and proven strategies inspired by speech-language pathologists.
Let's start with reviewing the timeline and food textures when babies and their parents are starting their food journey. From birth to 4 months, a baby's calories will typically come from breast milk and/or formula. Some babies receive one or the other, and some receive a mixture of both. Methods of feeding should be discussed between parent and pediatrician with regularly scheduled wellness checks to monitor baby's growth throughout this time. If a baby is able to consume breast milk, keep in mind that they can be exposed to a variety of tastes and milk compositions depending on the diet of the provider. From 4 to 6 months, most of a baby's calories will continue to come from either breast milk and/or formula. However, complementary introductions to appropriate food textures can start to take place. This age range is considered a golden period to start introducing solid foods if the child is ready, as missing this window could lead to future delays in growth and development. Please note that this is in consideration of a child's skill level and developmental age, not chronological age. Chronological age has to do with a child's date of birth and how much time has passed since then. If a child was born 3 years ago, their chronological age is 3 years. Developmental age has to do with the level at which they are functioning. A child's developmental age may be older or younger than their chronological age. If a child is born prematurely, for instance, introducing solid foods 4 to 6 months after they were born may not be appropriate, as their developmental age may be lower than their chronological age. They did not have as much time to develop within the womb and may be catching up on skills after birth. Remember that it is always important to consult medical professionals and speech-language pathologists before making a decision for your child. Around 4 to 6 months, most babies hold their heads up steadily, sit with support, and exhibit interest in food by watching others eat. So if these skills are not present, your baby may not be ready for the first food recommendation, purees. Purees, or finely mashed foods, are preferred for introducing tastes to babies between 4 to 6 months. These textures help babies transition from sucking to a more mature feeding pattern and help develop increased oral motor skills. Which brings us to the first food that is worth the hype, bananas. With a cost of around $1.50 per banana bunch, this is an excellent resource for families that have babies transitioning to solid foods, as they are rich in fiber and antioxidants, are easily accessible, and come in their own convenient wrapping. As for the list of things to avoid, here's Stephanie to tell us a little bit more.
As a speech-language pathologist trained in feeding and swallowing and a mom of 2,
We're going to review a handful of items that I recommend to parents they avoid if they can. Now, don't get me wrong. As a parent, I know there's just times you need to grab something quick or convenient and give it to your child. But just remember, this is a list of things to avoid if you can, not you're a terrible parent if you use these lists.
All right, for the first thing that's on our avoid if you can list, it's jarred baby food. Now I know there's a lot of options here and it's really hard to find time in the day to make your own jarred baby food. I'm not expecting you to go out and just make your own all day, every day. But I want you to do something for me. Close your eyes and think of your favorite flavor of baby food. Probably not one coming to mind, right? If anything, you're like, oh, this stuff doesn't taste all that great. That's how it is for baby too. So when you're giving them something that's very bland and processed, it's not giving them much of an opportunity to taste anything really. I know it has a lot of flavors listed, but if you really look at it, say bananas for instance, we have these here. It's just mashed banana, very finely mashed, processed, probably doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it. And honestly, for the price of it, you could go out and get yourself an actual bunch of bananas and make your own baby food. So keep that in mind.
At first, babies should be occasionally trying one food at a time that is made into a very smooth texture. Eventually, they can be offered more foods with different colors, tastes, and smells. Babies may initially prefer certain tastes, but preferences will change over time, which is why variety is the second thing on the worth the hype list for transitioning babies to solid foods.
I can't tell you the number of times in my career that I've been working on increasing variety for a child who has a beige, bland diet. These are things like goldfish crackers, plain pasta, fries, white bread. And that's why I have things like dissolvable puffs as the second thing that you can avoid on the list if you can. And that's because although these do have a reduced risk of choking, they also kind of have a reduced risk of giving you anything caloric or nutritive. There's really no protein, no fat, nothing all that healthy. It's literally just meant to have some sort of intake. Sure, slightly some flavor in there, but not that much. And we'll honestly have a much better alternative coming up for you in just a minute.
If there is a concern about possible food allergies, foods can be introduced slowly with a few days between each type of food to more easily notice any reactions that may be present. You can speak with the pediatrician before making any food introductions if there are concerns. At 6 to 9 months, most of a baby's calories will still be coming from breast milk and/or formula, but they will be ready to start eating solid foods in small portions up to 3 times a day. This is also a great time to introduce lumpy solids like bananas or avocados that are not quite mashed all the way, as well as the third thing on the worth the hype list, graham crackers.
Graham crackers are the excellent alternative I was mentioning to dissolvable puffs. Now, these can be broken up into about the same size pieces as those puffs, and they do tend to offer a little bit more calories for the child to go ahead and taste, as well as the flavor. So there's cinnamon, there's honey. It gives them just a little bit more than that dissolvable puff flavor that kind of just tastes like it sat in a room with that flavor for a bit. But these are also great at making a good pasty texture that comes together really well, that helps babies swallow without the urgency of being fearful that they might choke on it.
Now we're still in the 6 to 9 month window, so we wanted to be sure to mention another goal, trying hard Munchables. Hard Munchables are foods that should not easily break apart in your child's mouth. They are typically offered as longer pieces and are firm enough that your baby can hold it in their hand and place it in their mouth without being able to immediately bite off a piece. Some examples of hard Munchables include peeled carrots, celery sticks, and dried mangoes. These types of snacks are beneficial to oral motor development and can be given on their own or can be dipped in a puree for added flavor. You can also start introducing finger foods at about 8 months, like a ripe banana, a grape cut up into quarters, or very soft pasta. Your baby does not have to have teeth to consume this type of food, making it something they can hold and explore a little more independently while eating. On that note, we've previously referred to 2 items that I said I just cannot live without,
We use these daily in my household, and I highly, highly recommend to anyone that has children in their house every day or around children every day, preparing snacks for children. And those are the OXO grape cutter and the cherry pitter. Now you can head over to our social media to see my posts about why I like these products so much and how useful they are. But for now, you can feel free to head to our website. We do have them linked there as far as products that we highly recommend. So you can feel free to head over there if you'd like to add these to your household as well.
Moving into the next age range. From 9 to 12 months, about 50% of a baby's calories will be coming from solid foods, and the other 50% from breast milk and or formula. Around this age, a baby can usually eat pea-sized pieces of food that can be mashed easily between two fingers. Occasional gagging is normal as they are learning to transition the foods back for swallowing, but lots of gagging may indicate that a child is sensitive to the texture or the food is too big or thick. You can try adding formula or water to thin something out if necessary.
All right, now during the 9 to 12 month window, I start to see the next thing that's on our avoid if you can list, and that is food pouches. And again, just like the jarred baby food, there's a lot of different flavor, combinations, levels, different textures and thicknesses. But really, in the long run, the main pro would be that it does have a rounded tip for babies and toddlers to be able to suck from. However, there are better alternatives for them to be able to practice feeding themselves, and that includes things like their fingers or small utensils. And so I'd really prefer them to be using that to practice rather than a pouch. Instead of using something like food pouches to practice sucking for babies, I'd rather you get something more like a straw cup. These are great cups because they have lids and straws that you can take off and clean really easily, and you're not sad if you lose them. They're pretty cheap. Even better that the lid comes off and you can use an open cup to practice drinking. This is still pretty big for a baby, but it's something that's better than, say, maybe an alternative like a spouted sippy cup. These do not have the best shape for kiddos to be able to round their lips while they're drinking, and also try to avoid the type of spout where they have to bite down on to be able to drink, because that's not going to be something that's conducive to a good swallow pattern. And lastly, I really would prefer them to be practicing using their fingers or small utensils when they're eating, rather than having a food pouch that they're walking around the house with.
Between the ages of 1 and 2, a child will be eating the same food as the family, just in modified textures and sizes that are appropriate for them. Most of the child's diet will be coming from solid foods. Also, the pediatrician may suggest introducing water at this age.
That brings me to the last thing on our worth the hype list, and that is apple juice. Now, obviously, you've heard of apple juice before, and we often hear of babies having juice for constipation. And that is because around the 1 year of age mark, they're already mobile, or they're getting into that mobile stage. So they're moving around a lot more, they're burning more calories, and they usually need a lot more hydration. And it's not uncommon for them to experience constipation at that point because of their bodies going through those different balances. So you often think of the prune juice. That is fine. There are a lot of kiddos who will have some adverse reactions to that. I've seen where they even get sick to their stomach with it. And we don't want that. We're trying to get them to get something out of their body in a different direction. So that would be something where you might come in with some apple juice. If prune juice isn't a good option, you can dilute it with water. Really, the main thing is just to make sure that you're grabbing something that's 100% juice and not a really sugary option instead.
And now we come to the last thing on the avoid if you can list. And these are foods that are choking hazards. They should be avoided as much as possible until the child is at least 4 years of age, if not 5. Always consider that choking is silent, and you will not necessarily hear noise coming from a child that is truly choking on something. Children should always be supervised while eating because of this.
I hear you, parents. I'm in the same boat. I know it can be tough not giving certain snacks to the kiddos, especially if they're ones that you yourself enjoy and want to eat in your own house. Or if you have family members that maybe don't take it as seriously when you're telling them which foods not to give to your child, but they think they maybe know better. These are those risky snacks such as whole grapes, nuts, popcorn, dry rice, raw, fresh fruits and veggies that are very hard that you have to chew, hard candies, just anything that really has a high potential for getting stuck in the throat and blocking airflow. So these are snacks that we want to definitely try to limit. till at least the age of 5 as much as possible. If they do start to be given, it's something that we want to make sure it's in very, very strict moderation, something that's supervised by an adult in very small pieces, making sure that there's some sort of moisture involved. And so that's really just trying to reduce the risk of it getting stuck in that child's throat. But we really, really recommend that you refer to our handout about these choking hazards just to make sure that it's something you can even print and have around the house or present to someone else so that they have that quick list of things to avoid for a child that's under the age of 5.
Please remember that everything we reviewed today are general recommendations, not a rule. Kids develop at different rates, and remember, throughout a child's food journey, messy is okay. Kids need to be able to learn and explore, and they will make a mess while learning how to eat. Pro tip: as kids get older, mealtime is a great time to engage in conversation, describe foods, and encourage them to use their words to express likes and dislikes.
We know that was a lot of information. To make it easier, we've made a summary handout that you can find on our website. The link is in the caption below.
Always remember that you are the expert. Talking to your pediatrician or seeking out a speech language pathologist is recommended if you have concerns.
That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember to like and subscribe if you found this helpful. We'll be posting many more videos about child language development, speech development, recommended toys, fun things to do with your kids, and story time. Also, remember to check out our Instagram page, TikTok, and our website, littlebitsoflanguage.com, for bonus content. See you soon.
Lil Bits.